All right. So the assignment here was to look at two different images, one from a kind of urban billboard, which we have here, which is kind of like the city life, and then also of a suburban life, um, which is kind of out of the city. Um, and so we're going to look at both of these images, which both can tell a lot about the differences in life. So first off, we have to look kind of at the culture of each. So as you can see in this photo, uh, urban life, you're seeing a lot more people. It's a little more frenzied because you're actually in the city. So as you can tell, we can see here, there's multiple people. It's kind of more of an apartment style um, life. It's a little more hectic. Whereas the suburban life, you're kind of out out of the city. You're out of the chaos. You're out of everything. You have your own little neighborhood of people, so as you can see, it's a little less chaotic here. So that's just one of the major cultural differences that you can just tell just from looking at both of these photos. Um, being able to look at memories of each. So me personally, I lived in a suburban neighborhood. Wasn't really near the big city. We were about, I'd say, like 20 minutes away from Columbus, Ohio, which is our biggest city around. So this picture right here more shows. I mean, I wish my house was that nice, but more shows of my life: the green grass, the yard, um, having all of that, the garden, the space, and everything. Whereas here, um, every time I would go to the city, you would see traffic, you would see people running around, all that. So you each photo can entice different memories. Maybe somebody grew up urban and they see this as lovely as everything that they want. Um, you also could look more towards the just how the photo makes you feel. So the emotional standpoints with it. So just looking at this photo, seeing all the people, seeing all the trees and stuff, I loved going downtown just to go to the city parks and stuff like that. So just seeing those little tidbits thrown into these photos could show more of what urban life could have been. Whereas this right here, this hits right home. Not to make the pun, but it hits home because that's the kind of life that I was able to live and the kind of life that we were able to use as I grew up. Um, with that too comes expectations. So when I grow up or when I get my career and set forth, what kind of house would I like to live in? Would I like to live in the city where I'm connected to everything? Maybe my job is closer, uh, the benefits of that, or maybe I want to live in the house that I grew up in, out of the city, kind of in my own little neighborhood, in my own little area. Um, so again, it is all subjective to the person, but seeing this photo versus maybe this photo, I'm more in tap to want to go to this place in my heart just because that is where I grew up and where I feel is best. And then you have your semiotic codes put into both images. So we have metonymic, where we're just kind of taking the experiences of each. Let's see if I have it pulled up here. So you can make assumptions about the kind of life that each person has. So obviously, you can assume that this person lives in an apartment. They look like pretty nice apartments to me. Um, so you can assume here that maybe they're a little more wealthy. Living in the city tends to be a little higher. So you can old, you can make these assumptions just based on these photos. I mean, the building looks nice, the apartments look beautiful, and then here, again, this house looks very nice. But you can also make the assumption that these people live in a great part of town, a nice area, just from this one photo. So then you can also look at um, the analogical, which is the comparing. So just looking at the two, in this, you're going to be living near people, you're going to be dealing with more people, you're going to be dealing with more noise from the city. Whereas here, it's your home. You're dealing with the people that you live with, that you love, that you want to be with, and then maybe a few people, neighbors, and other people like that. You also have the um, condensed version of both of these. So obviously, in a suburban life, you could live near a bunch of people. We could have a bunch of houses stacked right next to each other, and just because this one photo doesn't represent the entire life, obviously. Whereas the same thing here, maybe you can live in the city, but on your own. Um, but both photos just kind of give a brief look into the urban versus suburban life. And being able to pick up on all of those visual cues would help um, a person maybe make their decision on which life they would want. But as you can tell, if you were to try to convince somebody of a suburban life to make this their billboard as this is what their life should be, then they're not going to see the same thing. Vice versa with this, if you want a urban billboard to go up in this area, it's not going to have the same effect on the people here. So being able to make the cultural references based on each is key, because a billboard here of maybe talking about rural living and all of that will not have the same effect as it would here, or making an assumption here would not have the same effect as it would here. So you have to be able to distinguish both and learn what culture fits which area. Thank you.